Well, I took this in two different parts. Like the person I used to be, and then so the person I am now. And when I look back a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, I can look back and say I used to know her. So I'll take it back in history. I don't know if it's history, but I'll take it back to I used to know her for the person I used to be in the past. And so I used to know her. For me, that would be a woman who was unsure of herself, who was insecure, who lacked self-love. So all those things, and a few other things more, but those things encompass itself led to me getting into an unhealthy relationship.
Hey loves, it's Kristen.
Great day, it's Leita.
And today we're going to talk about the album by H.E.R called I Used to Know Her. So we were inspired by the lyrics and what it means to just think about who we used to be. And so if you don't already know us, definitely join our tribe. Subscribe, like, comment as you listen to the video, and definitely share with anyone who you think can relate to the fact that I used to know her and what that means for our future self. You know, as we was listening to the album, we kind of were inspired by that title itself and what it meant to us.
No, exactly. So, like, for me, I took this in two different parts. Like, the person I used to be, and then so the person I am now. And when I look back a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, I can look back and say I used to know her. So I'll take it back in history. I don't know if it's history, but I'll take it back to I used to know her for the person I used to be in the past. And so I used to know her. For me, that would be a woman who was unsure of herself, who was insecure, who lacked self-love. So all those things, and a few other things more, but those things encompass itself led to me getting into an unhealthy relationship, led to me accepting jobs that maybe not have paid me well, even though I had my master's degree. So it led to me a lot of different things in my life that when I look back on her, I can say I'm glad I never want to regret anything, but I'm glad I can take those lessons, learn from it, apply those to my life today, to the one I am today, and use those life lessons to better me.
Right.
Like, if you don't know my story, just a little bit of my story. Because of the lack of self-love and the person that I used to be, or the woman I used to know, I ended up in an abusive relationship. In that abusive relationship, I stuck around because of the lack of self-worth and self-love. Like, I personally say for me that I stuck around that relationship and I stayed for so long with the unhealthiness, the abuse, the mental, physical, like all that stuff, just simply because I didn't value myself enough. I had like a scarcity mindset to at the same exact time, feeling that there wasn't anybody else. Even though he didn't treat me good, I felt like there was no one else. Or I also had this mentality that, because I met him at a certain way, like I had this image in my head, he was this person, but now he became this person. I don't know that person, but I hope that he, because I have this thing in my head where I always want the best for people, or have the best image of people in my head, like no matter what they may show me, I always want to see the best light in them. And so because of that, because of the lack of self-love, me feeling like I deserve more, I stayed in a relationship longer than I should have.
Right.
But I can look back on that person I used to be and say I used to know her. And when I talk to other women now, I can say at one point, yes, that was me. Let me help you how you can look back in some future and say that used to be me. Now I'm more loving in myself. Mm-hmm. I know what I want. I know what I desire. I don't let someone treat me less than I desire, than I want to. So your vibration is so high that you don't even interact or even come in path with those kind of people anymore, which is an awesome thing. So being able to look back and say I used to know her is a beautiful thing, to say that I used to be me, but now look at the woman I am today.
Yeah. And I definitely can adhere to her becoming an amazing woman, amazing mom, and amazing sister, amazing business partner, and it all, and just watching her through the process, and just having my own story as well, where one of the things that I do want to have a conversation with you guys about a little bit later is some of the things that we did that allowed us to be able to say, okay, we're happy with where we are compared to where we were, and then also what we're doing to be able to continue to grow to that next level self. So before I get into those, definitely, again, comment, let us know, if you can relate to, who you used to be. Just drop it in the comments. Say, I used to know her too, darling. Share this video, like it, and definitely subscribe so you can, be able to get updated on our next videos. So just to get into a little bit of my story, as I reflect on me and how I used to know who I was, it really, to me, it's just like a crazy story, because I just reflect on how I was putting out this image of who Kristen was on the surface, but deep down inside, when nobody was watching, I was this totally different person. And like, I don't mind being like open with you guys, because I know my truth and I know what I've been through. So there's nothing that I will ever say on this channel that that you can use against me. So if you don't mind, the openness and the frankness, I wasn't the greatest when it came to relationships. I was dishonest, and that's around the borders. I wasn't honest with who I was to people, and that led to a lot of pain. Like, I just felt like at the end of the day, I was not being who I was. But it wasn't until I got into, I wasn't being true to who I was, because I thought I had to put on this facade of what people thought I was supposed to be, or who Kristen was. Like, I was putting that front out versus actually allowing myself to live out who I really am and who I'm really supposed to be. So I was in a relationship a few years ago, and the guy I was dating was the one that kind of taught me to look in the mirror. It was and to really reflect on who I am internally, who I was being, and being truthful to say, okay, you've been, putting on this facade for so long, but now is the time to to shed that old skin, to give the world your inner self and your inner strengths and that brightness that is coming from within you, and to be true to yourself. Like, as an example, I thought I had to be an employee at work and a business partner at night, or like when I was around my mom, I had to act like a daughter. Like, I just felt like I had to make these adjustments to my environment. But it wasn't until I was able to like really look deep within myself to say, okay, how is God, like, how did God put me here, in terms of who he wanted me to be, in terms of, as a child, if I look back, like, and we'll kind of get into some of the things I do is in meditation to kind of figure out how the path that I was put here to kind of to take on, and allow that person to be the one that goes into a room and shape the room around me versus me being shaped by the rooms that I'm in. And because to me that was extremely just draining, like, feeling like I had to change who I was in every single environment. But when I grew to be able to be okay with my own truth, to be okay with understanding that I'm not who others want me to be, but I'm who God wants me to be. And that allowed me to be able to really see a dramatic change and shift, as well as the process of me moving towards that next level self as well. And I think, that is like just a beautiful awakening for me, and it definitely allows me to live more peacefully and purposefully too.
Oh yeah. So we like with us sharing who we used to be, I challenge you as a woman, as a man, to look back and say, at some point in your life, a year from now, 2-3 years from now, I used to know her. I used to know him. Like, who do you see yourself being? What do you need to release? What do you need to let go of? What things do you know, your flaws, that needs to be released? Like, sometimes we have flaws, but we can accept and embrace our flaws. But there's some things about us that we know we need to let go. Yeah. Like, maybe we have anger issues. Maybe we don't love ourselves the way we're supposed to. Maybe we don't feel like we're deserving of things. So, like, all those things, whatever you need to let go. Maybe you have an abusive partner. Maybe whatever those things you may have going on in your life that you know that you shouldn't have, let them go. One thing I do on a daily basis is, when very first thing I do in the morning is do morning pages, where I write 3 pages just straight, whatever I write, whatever first thing comes to my head, where I'm just kind of like venting or just letting go, or if I'm happy, whatever the things is, I just let it go out in 3 pages. And at the end of it, I throw it away. I don't read it. I don't go over. I just read it, kind of just flushing things out of your head. Because sometimes in the morning you wake up, you have a bunch of clutter that's sat there overnight. So just release and let it go. As well as the second thing I do like 10, depending on how much time you have in the morning. It all depends. You may have kids, your husband, whatever you may have. But if you have some time, also do some clearing. And that's just like a simple kind of a sort of a meditation. But the difference is you're feeling of something. Let's say something happened to you. Let's say something you want to let go. Somebody you need to forgive yourself. Something you may have done. Somebody may have done something. Whatever it is, you need to feel that emotion of whatever happened. Just really intensely feel that feeling, and then release it. Allowing that pain or that hurt or that trauma to just be released from your body. It may not be just a one-day thing. You have to kind of do it multiple times to fully get to a point where you're no longer it's no longer a sting there when you think about that. Think about it.
in addition to those two things that I would add on top of that is the ability to decide what relationships you may want to work on, that you want them to grow to a better position. You can start off with yourself. Understanding your relationship with yourself is crazy important. So one thing that I did, which is not simple, but journaling for me is a way for me to be able to get my thoughts on paper so that I can read them later and then understand where I was. But it also gives me the insight to say, okay, you know, this allows me to say, all right, who is Kristen? What is your goal? What are you here to do? Like, just be able to kind of write out who you currently are and in relationship to yourself, who you're being to yourself. Like, how are you taking care of yourself? If you were to date yourself, what actions are you doing to make sure that you are fed and that you are loved by you? Like, those are some things that you can do, as well as if there's some challenging relationships that you have. Myself, I'm definitely former relationships, because I wasn't the best in relationships prior. I had to kind of go back and like pick up on different relationships and write out how I was showing up in those relationships so that I can see if there was a pattern. And from that pattern, then you can dissect, okay, so what is the root of this that I need to uplift or unroot so that I can then plant a better habit or a better a way of being in relationships. And to me, like, just that honesty is definitely one of the things that I had to like hone in on, like being honest with who I was at the core with the person that I was dating, and then being open to the perspective of that other person, so that it was it's mutually building. And we're not saying like you have to release who you are. Like, you don't completely have to release who you are. You just have to make adjustments so that you're able to adapt to what God is about to give you next. Like, if you are, 15 years old, sitting in this third grade chair at school, like, you're more likely to be uncomfortable versus letting that third grade chair go sit in a high school chair. So that's the philosophy we're trying to teach, is that you just want to be able to equip yourself with enough tools so that you're able to take on the next level of blessings. So for me, I know my goals are extremely huge. They're audacious, literally. So part of what I do, and I learned this from Paul McKenna. You can look him up on YouTube. He has a lot of different videos that you can watch that help you to reprogram your mind. And he's just one of the people that I listen to. But one of the things that he does is he has you to think about one of the most joyous moments in your life. For a mom or a dad, it might be the birth of their child, or a wedding day, or graduating college. Like, whatever it is for you, remember how you felt in that moment, how excited you were, how grateful you were. And then use that same energy to imagine yourself in the car that you want to purchase, in the business that you want to own, in the relationship that you want to better. And that...
How big your bank account is.
Exactly. So using that same energy to feel as if you already have it will allow you to be excited and to
manifest
it, bring it into your life, bring opportunities your way that will help you get in alignment with those things that you want. And to be able to so you can in the next 5-10 years can look back and like, I used to know her, or I used to know him. And it's just a even better story of growth.
Say, take the tools we just gave you, hone on them, because these are these are things we use to help in our lives personally. So these aren't just things we just read in a book. These are things we actually do, and use them, implement them. You need to re-watch this video. Definitely share this with a friend, someone who might need to hear this, and use it to better your life. Like, these are great, amazing tips that we've learned and studied from other people, but take them, use them, learn from them, share this, and as always, definitely subscribe, like, comment, and look forward to talking to you guys soon.